I don't know if you've read this book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. I know, quite a strange way to begin, right? About the dying. But there's this famous author, Bronnie Ware. She's an Australian author. She was a palliative care nurse, and she who stood sitting beside people in their final weeks of life eventually compiled the regrets that they shared with her into this book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And they namely are: I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I'd let myself be happier. 5 regrets, and if you look at them honestly, they all point to the same thing: a life that was spent being cautious, being guarded, and holding back. People arrive at the end of their lives and discover that the very things they had protected themselves from were the things that would have made them most alive. Today, the church gives us a man who had none of those regrets. Lawrence was a deacon in Rome in the year 258. His job essentially was to manage the church's resources and distribute them to the poor. When the Emperor Valerian unleashed the persecution and had Pope Sixtus II executed, the imperial prefect came for the church's wealth next. He demanded Lawrence hand over the treasures of the church within 3 days. Lawrence took the 3 days. He went through the streets of Rome and gathered every poor person, every widow, every lame and blind and sick person that the church had been caring for. He brought them before the prefect, lined them up, and said simply, "You wanted the treasures of the church? These are the treasures of the church." It's one of the great acts of holy insolence in Christian history, and it cost him his life. The prefect was so furious, he ordered Lawrence killed slowly, roasted on a gridiron over hot coals. Oh. And what did Lawrence do? He asked his torturers, with apparently genuine good humor, "Turn me over. I'm done on this side." To live in such freedom, to be able to laugh at death. He died making a joke, not from bravado, from a freedom so complete that even the manner of his death couldn't reach the place he was living from. No regrets, none of the 5, not one. Now, we hear what St. Paul writes to the Corinthians. He says, "Whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will reap bountifully." God loves a cheerful giver. And the gospel gives us Jesus saying, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground, into the earth, and dies, it remains a simple grain. If it dies, it bears much fruit. And here's the detail that makes Paul's word land with a particular weight today. Lawrence wasn't just any disciple. He was the archdeacon of Rome, the man literally in charge of the church's money, the minister of finance. He had the keys to the treasury. If anyone had a reason to be careful, cautious, it was him. When Paul writes, "God loves a cheerful giver," he's writing to ordinary Christians in Corinth, encouraging generosity. But Lawrence was no ordinary man. He was the treasurer, and he gave the entire treasury away. Would you have that gut? Which sounds a bit like St. Francis of Assisi, doesn't it? He gave to the poor, and then his life on top of it. He gave that too. He didn't hear Paul's words. He became those very words we heard today. Both readings are saying the same thing, and Lawrence's life is the proof of it. The logic of the kingdom runs exactly opposite to the logic that produces Bonnie Ware's 5 regrets. Well, not her 5 regrets, but the regrets of those who are dying that she accompanied. The world says, hold on, protect yourself, spend carefully, give only what you can safely, spare, keep something back for yourself. And that strategy, lived out over a lifetime, produces a person dying in bed at the end thinking, I was too careful, and I lost everything that mattered anyway. The kingdom says the grain that is kept safe in the silo is the grain that produces nothing. It is the grain that falls into the dark and apparently disappears. That becomes bread for the world. Lawrence understood this, not as a theory, but as a way of being. He had spent his whole ministry giving the church's wealth to the poor, to the people that the empire of Rome, the Roman Empire, decided were worthless. And when the moment came to give everything else, he gave his life with a joke on his lips, because he'd already let go of everything that fear tells us to grip. What would that look like for you? For me? Not necessarily to be a martyr, though perhaps some things in our lives do need to die for something better to grow. That's true. But simply this: what are we sowing sparingly because we are afraid? What are we holding back from in a relationship with God? From a person who needs me? From my own deepest self? Because some cautious part of me is still trying to stay safe. Bonnie Ware's, remember that author? Bonnie Ware's patients didn't regret the things they lost. They regretted the things they never gave. Lawrence gave everything, cheerfully, right to the end. That's not just a feast day story. It's really inviting me to a way of living. Maybe I can't do everything and give everything away, but if I could practice that virtue by slowly letting go, by slowly not letting fear grip me, but being generous, maybe I would change the ending of that book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And wouldn't you want to? I would. I'd like to live a life where there's no regrets.